Most experimentation programs play it too safe. By categorizing each test as iterative, substantial, or disruptive, you can evaluate your program's ability to impact business growth and not just margins. What the solution spectrum helps us with is to measure the portfolio balance. Mature programs have a mix of big bets. Iterative, substantial, and disruptive tests all running within the same program. Problem is, if you try to run too many, there can be a lack of direction, so we don't want to go too far down that spectrum. If you focus purely on small tweaks to optimize margins, iterating is fine, but for a while you'll get stuck and stagnant, and that's where people explain that programs aren't delivering value, aren't beneficial, and ultimately desire and interest peaks and drops. What you want to do is seek out a balance. Experimentation should be your safe space to try bold ideas in a controlled environment. Most notably, effecting change and changing the direction in which your business is trying to grow. Use the solution spectrum to create a testing roadmap rich in impactful insights, not just optimization tweaks. And I'm going to talk a little bit about optimization and experimentation. When you stick to small changes, you can't explore the new ones. If you do optimization purely in a single area or test in very small changes, it's like polishing a diamond. You're going to get some impact, you're going to deliver some benefit, but it's going to be very minimal in the amount of insights you generate from it. With the experimentation and substantial and disruptive tests, you're testing new ideas, new concepts, and generating new insights. Whether they win or lose, you're pushing out into new areas, like discovering a new map. We can easily get stuck in an iterative safe space, though, be held down by it. The challenge is that iterative tests, there's limited pushback, it's quick to build and test, and the focus can be on velocity, so you can run a lot of them. They can still generate big wins, so there's no seemingly downside, but it can be often where we start and stay in a program. The problem is no one really cares whether they win or lose. There's no investment or intrigue as to the impact of a test. With a substantial group of tests, they can need a bigger stakeholder sell. That can come with higher expectations, but it can also be that people will talk about substantial tests when really they're just a group of iterative changes. What I'm talking about here is a different type of experiment in a different direction that's going to generate a new insight and possibly unlock new heights. Now, disruptive tests are really using experimentation to drive new growth opportunities and even influence product roadmaps. This might be, like I said, testing new tools, models, and frameworks, but it's ultimately getting more value from the same resources and the same team. And that's the real key thing. We want people to be excited about the experiments that are being run and help influence the direction in which they're leading, not see it as a tool for simply honing and polishing and eking out margins, which can be seen in the optimization space. Now, you want to be able to get your team excited about these possibilities. I like to use the examples from Netflix. Plenty of experimentation, a wealth of knowledge and understanding, and they're running tests in all these different areas. Iterative types of tests could be things like title cards. There's minimal risk in them, in that they will still be clicked on. It's about optimizing and just getting the most out of that engagement. The learning's relatively minimal from the wider group and program perspective. Now, a substantial test they ran was to do the autoplay. The fundamental change in behavior identified a real opportunity and pushed them into new areas and new ideas to steer the strategy of what they might want to do. And of course, they didn't start off as streaming. They were running DVDs beforehand. So challenging this unknown opens new doors. And those are kind of disruptive ideas that you want to continually try and think about. Now, if your team's too cautious to think of substantial and disruptive tests, start to use those terms to differentiate between the types of experiments that you're running and would like to run. Use the terms optimize instead of experiment and start to begin to clarify the differences between them. But it can be hard to move away. It's a challenging but necessary move to evolve and mature your program into the next level. A good place to start is to just spend more time on finding and discussing the problem statement, looking at quantitative or qualitative data, and really asking, why is this information important? You can also look to spend more time writing the hypothesis before you go straight into the execution. Really trying to consider, what are you trying to solve? Why will this impact user behavior? What psychological principles are being applied? All of this will help understand where you might be able to go when you get to the execution phase. And how can we know if we've made an impact, considering those behavioral metrics as well? And that's the biggest change, and to try and move the difference in behavior here. So spend more time on the ideation, include ideas from all three, and force to move not just in one direction but in several, and to consider the options of how you might be able to move into more substantial and disruptive tests. Forget the internal constraints and technical challenges. Those are the ideas to try and push towards to elevate and grow your program. And just look at having disruptive sessions to try and focus on getting those ideas out from the team. A good mix is around a 60-30-10 ratio. So 60% of your experiments in iterative spaces, 30% in substantial, and around 10% in disruptive. It's a good mix, and it's typically what we see in programs. This is going to give you a good balance of the weighting of experiments in iterative spaces and optimizing margins, but also being able to discover and learn from some of those larger tests.